The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. In the 50 years since humanity had reached Mars, they had always wondered if and when the Galactic Council would acknowledge them. Now, displayed on every screen in the United Nations Space Command Headquarters, the golden seal of the Council glowed with an almost mocking brightness. "They're finally talking to us," said Defense Chief Robert Mills, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, studying the intricate alien script that automatically translated into English before their eyes. The message was simple. Earth was invited to send a representative to the Council. After half a century of being ignored, of watching alien ships pass their solar system without so much as a greeting, humanity had finally earned a seat at the table, or so it seemed. Ambassador James Walker sat in his office at the UN building in New York, reading the invitation for the 20th time. At 55, with gray streaks in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and worry, he was the obvious choice to represent Earth. His track record of peacefully resolving conflicts during the Mars colony crisis had made him famous. Now it would make him humanity's first voice in the galactic community. "You understand what this means, James?" asked President Thompson during the emergency meeting. "We've waited generations for this moment. Everything we do from this point forward will define humanity's place among the stars." Walker nodded, his expression serious. "I understand, Madam President, but something about this feels rushed. Why now? Why after 50 years of silence?" The preparation for Walker's departure took 3 weeks. Earth's best scientists and diplomats worked around the clock, preparing briefs on every known alien species in the Council. There were 12 major races, each with their own agenda and history. Some had been part of galactic society for thousands of years, while others were relatively new, like the stone-like beings from the Rigel system who had joined only a century ago. The day of departure came too quickly. Walker stood before the assembled leaders of Earth in his formal diplomatic uniform, black with silver trim, the UN insignia on one shoulder and Earth's flag on the other. The ship that would take him to the Council station was a marvel of alien engineering, on loan from one of the more friendly species. It gleamed like liquid metal in the morning sun. "Remember," Mills pulled Walker aside just before he boarded, "not everything is as it seems out there. Keep your eyes open. We've prepared for everything." The meaningful look in the defense chief's eyes made Walker wonder just what kind of preparations he meant. The journey took 5 days. Walker spent the time studying and observing his alien crew. They were polite but distant, their 4-armed bodies moving with fluid grace through the ship's corridors. He noticed how they whispered among themselves when they thought he wasn't listening, their translator devices deliberately turned off. The Council station appeared through the ship's viewport like a massive crystalline flower blooming in space. Its petals were made of some transparent material that seemed to shift colors as they approached. Ships of all sizes and designs moved around it in complex patterns, like bees around a hive. "Welcome to Harmony Station," announced the ship's captain, all 4 of his arms raised in what Walker assumed was a formal greeting. "The Council awaits." As Walker stepped off the ship, he was met by a delegation of various alien species. Some walked on legs, others floated, and a few moved in ways that defied description. But what caught his attention were their expressions, or what passed for expressions on their alien faces. The newer Council members showed genuine interest and welcome, but the representatives of the older races, there was something in their manner that made the hair on the back of Walker's neck stand up. He had seen that look before, during the Mars crisis. It was the look of those who had already decided the fate of others, who were simply waiting for the right moment to reveal it. Walker straightened his uniform and stepped forward. Behind him, Earth was counting on him. Before him, the greatest diplomatic challenge in human history awaited. And somewhere in between, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. 2 weeks into his stay at Harmony Station, Walker discovered that the Galactic Council's shine was mostly paint over rust. He sat in his quarters, staring at the data tablet he had been given for official Council business. The screen showed trade reports that didn't add up, and lists of planets marked as protected developing worlds that were being stripped of resources. Computer, cross-referenced these mining operations with the Council's Protected Worlds Treaty, Walker whispered. He had learned early on that the station's walls had ears, both literal and electronic. The computer displayed two very different sets of numbers. The official reports showed minimal contact with developing worlds. The real numbers, hidden behind layers of encryption that Walker's Earth-made decoder had quietly broken, told a very different story. Just like the old colonial powers back home, Walker muttered, thinking of Earth's own dark history. He saved the evidence to his personal device, carefully hidden in a false bottom of his diplomatic case. The Council's security was good, but they had made the mistake of underestimating human technology. Later that day, Walker attended another council session. The Great Chamber was a marvel of engineering, with floating platforms arranged in circles around a central speaking area. Light streamed in through the crystal ceiling, creating patterns that danced across the gathered representatives of 100 worlds. The motion to increase protection fees for developing worlds passes, announced High Speaker Last Stone, his crystalline body glinting in the light. Walker noticed how the speaker's aide quickly adjusted something on his control panel. Another transaction being hidden, no doubt. After the session, Walker walked through the station's grand corridors, nodding politely to other representatives. He stopped at one of the viewing windows, pretending to admire the space traffic outside while actually watching a reflection of those behind him. Ambassador Walker, a voice spoke softly. He turned to find Counselor First Ring, one of the few older council members who had shown him genuine respect. Her serpentine body was coiled in what Walker had learned was a posture of concern, a word in private. They moved to a small garden area, one of many scattered throughout the station. First Ring activated a personal privacy field, technology that was supposedly restricted but seemed common among certain council members. "You've been asking questions," she said, her scales shifting colors slightly. "Dangerous questions." Walker kept his face neutral. "I'm a diplomat. Asking questions is my job. There are those who think Earth isn't ready for council membership," First Ring continued. "They believe humans are too unpredictable, too dangerous." "And what do you believe, Counselor?" First Ring's scales flickered with what Walker had learned was amusement. "I believe they are right to be afraid, but for the wrong reasons. They fear your species might discover their corruption. I fear what will happen when you do." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. "When, not if." "We both know you already have," First Ring said. "The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" Before Walker could respond, his personal alert device vibrated. An encrypted message from Earth. "Routine inspection of KONCLRC8IVES Proceed with Teocean." Walker smiled slightly. Earth had been busy too, it seemed. They had managed to get him official access to the very records he had been secretly investigating. Now he could dig deeper, all under the cover of official business. "Thank you for your concern, Counselor," Walker said carefully. "I hope we can speak again soon." As he walked back to his quarters, Walker's mind raced. The corruption went deeper than simple resource theft. He had found evidence of technological suppression, keeping younger races from advancing too quickly, and Earth appeared to be their latest target. What Walker didn't know was that his own investigation was being watched. In a secure room deep within the station, High Speaker Last Stone viewed a holographic display of Walker's movements. "The human continues to probe where he shouldn't," one aide reported. Last Stone's crystalline form pulsed with dark colors. "Then perhaps it's time we taught humanity a lesson about curiosity. Prepare the evidence, make it convincing." The trap was set. The only question was, who would spring it first? The emergency alarms woke Walker at what his body clock told him was 3 a.m. Earth time. Red lights pulsed through his quarters, and the station's AI was repeating something in multiple languages. "Ambassador Walker, The AI's voice was cold. Your presence is required in the council chamber immediately. This is a security matter. Walker quickly dressed in his formal uniform, his hands moving to the hidden pocket where he kept his evidence. Empty. His blood ran cold. The room had been searched while he slept. 6 armed guards waited outside his door. Their armor was black with the council's symbol glowing in deep red, not the regular security force. These were the speaker's personal guards. Move, one ordered, pointing a weapon that looked more like a small cannon. The council chamber looked different in emergency lighting. The floating platforms were arranged in a half circle, like a court, or an execution chamber. Every council member was present, their faces or equivalent features showing various degrees of anger, fear, or in some cases, poorly hidden satisfaction. High Speaker Last Stone's crystalline form pulsed with dark energy as Walker was brought to the central platform. Ambassador James Walker of Earth, you stand accused of espionage against the Galactic Council. I demand to speak with my government, Walker said firmly, standing straight despite the guards around him. This is a violation of diplomatic protocol. Protocols are for legitimate diplomats. Last Stone's voice boomed through the chamber. Not spies. A hologram appeared above the chamber's center, showing documents, transmissions, and recordings, all of them fabricated, Walker knew, but done well enough to look real. These are false, Walker said, looking around the chamber. He caught First Ring's eye. Her scales had gone completely pale, a sign of horror in her species. She knew what was coming. The council has reviewed the evidence in emergency session. Last Stone continued as if Walker hadn't spoken. The verdict is unanimous. Walker noticed something odd. The chamber's usual public broadcast systems were active, transmitting across not just the station, but to all council worlds, including Earth. This is a show, Walker said, realization dawning. You want everyone to see this. Last Stone's crystal form glowed brighter. Indeed. Let all worlds see what happens to those who would threaten the council's peace. Let them see the price of defiance. The guards stepped back. Walker felt energy building in the chamber center. Your species thought it could hide its true nature from us. Last Stone's voice had dropped to a dangerous tone. You played at being peaceful diplomats while secretly building weapons, developing technologies beyond your permitted level. Did you think we wouldn't notice? Walker laughed then, a sound that seemed to startle many council members. No, he said clearly, knowing his words were being broadcast across the galaxy. We knew you'd notice. We just needed to prove what you really were. Enough. Last Stone roared. By emergency powers of the council, I sentence you to death by plasma immolation. Let your burning flesh be a warning to Earth and any others who would challenge council authority. The energy field around Walker burst into blue flame. The pain was beyond anything he had imagined possible. But he kept his eyes locked on Last Stone, kept his back straight. As his consciousness began to fade, he saw First Ring rise from her platform. You fools, she cried out. You've just started a war you cannot win. Walker's last thought, as the plasma consumed him, was of Earth. He had done his duty. He had exposed the council's true face to the galaxy. Now it was up to others to finish what he had started. The broadcast cut off abruptly, but not before every world, every species, every single soul watching had seen a human being burned alive, while standing proud. Not before they had seen the council reveal itself as the tyranny it truly was. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Earth's surface, Defense Chief Mills watched the broadcast end. His face was a mask of cold fury as he turned to President Thompson. The Walker Protocol, Madam President. She nodded once, her eyes hard. Activated. All of it. They wanted to see humanity's true nature. She stood, looking at the screens showing Earth's hidden fleets emerging from their secret bases. Let's show them. Within 1 hour of Walker's execution, every military base on Earth went to full alert. Underground bunkers that officially didn't exist hummed to life. Hidden doors in the ice of Antarctica slid open. The dark side of the moon bristled with weapon systems that no alien race knew about. Defense Chief Mills stood in the Global Command Center, watching as red dots appeared on the massive screen showing Earth's solar system. Council ships were arriving, probably expecting to find a panicked, disorganized planet. Status of the Walker Protocol. President Thompson's voice was steady as she entered the command center. Phase 1 complete, Mills replied. The fleet is emerging from Neptune's shadow now. On the main screen, hundreds of blue dots appeared. Ships that humanity had been building in secret for decades, hidden in the storms of Neptune. They were smaller than Council vessels, but packed with technology that Earth had developed while pretending to be far less advanced. All ships reporting ready, announced Admiral Reed from his command chair on the flagship Terran Dawn. Permission to begin Phase 2. The President nodded. Show them what humanity can do. The Earth fleet moved with precision that surprised the watching Council ships. Instead of the crude formation they expected from a primitive species, humanity's vessels executed perfect jump maneuvers, appearing and disappearing faster than Council sensors could track. Message from the Council fleet, a communications officer reported. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Mills actually smiled. Send them Walker's last transmission. Across every Council ship, the final images of Walker played. But this time, they included data he had secretly gathered about Council corruption, proof of their crimes against developing worlds, and evidence of their planned subjugation of Earth. Walker had known he might die, and he had prepared accordingly. Council fleet is powering up weapons, someone reported. Let them, Mills said calmly. Activate the shields. When the Council ships fired, their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against barriers of pure dark energy, technology that humanity had reverse-engineered from crashed Council ships over the past 50 years. Their weapons had no effect, Reed reported from the flagship. Permission to demonstrate ours. The President's voice was cold. Granted. The Earth fleet's response was devastating. Weapons that the Council had never seen before cut through their supposedly superior shields like paper. Small, fast attack craft piloted by Earth's best pilots darted between the larger Council ships, hitting critical systems with surgical precision. Council fleet requesting emergency communication, the comms officer announced. On the main screen, a familiar face appeared. First Ring, her scales now a deep blue of formal authority. Please, she said, you've made your point. We surrender. Like you gave Walker a chance to surrender, Mills asked quietly. I tried to warn him, First Ring replied. And now I'm trying to warn you. The Council will send more ships. Let them come, President Thompson said, stepping into view. But first, broadcast this across all Council frequencies. The President's image was transmitted to every Council world, every station, every ship in known space. For 50 years, we watched you. We learned. While you thought we were struggling with basic spaceflight, we were building, preparing, not because we wanted war, but because we saw what you truly were. Ambassador Walker gave his life to show the galaxy your corruption. And now we will finish what he started. She paused, letting her words sink in. To those Council worlds who stand against tyranny, join us. To those who support the current Council leadership, stay out of our way. And to High Speaker Last Stone and his supporters, her eyes hardened. You wanted to see humanity's true nature. You're about to. The transmission ended. In the command center, Mills turned to his staff. Begin Phase 3. Contact our allies within the Council. It's time for everyone to choose sides. The Earth fleet moved forward, advancing toward Harmony Station. The war for the galaxy had begun, and humanity had just revealed its opening hand. Behind them, Earth's shipyards were already launching more vessels. 50 years of preparation were about to pay off, and the Council was about to learn why you should never underestimate humans or murder their diplomats. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the Terran Dawn, watching as the combined Earth fleet approached the Council's largest military base. The massive station orbited a red giant star, its defenses bristling with weapons that had kept the Council in power for centuries. All ships in position, his tactical officer reported. Strike teams ready. Reed nodded, thinking of the training these men and women had undergone in secret. For decades, Earth had prepared its soldiers using simulated Council technology, teaching them to fight enemies they hadn't officially met yet. Begin the attack, Reed ordered. Execute Operation Walker's Justice. The Earth fleet split into 3 groups, exactly as they had practiced countless times. The largest group engaged the station's main defenses head-on, their dark energy shields absorbing everything the Council could throw at them. They're responding exactly as predicted, Mills commented from the Earth Command Center, watching the battle through real-time quantum communications, another technology humanity had kept hidden. The Council commanders, trained by centuries of being the strongest force in the galaxy, were following their standard battle plans. They didn't realize these plans had been studied and countered by Earth's strategists for years. Second wave, begin your run, Reed commanded. Smaller, faster ships darted through the gaps in the Council's formation. These vessels, piloted by Earth's best, carried specially designed weapons that targeted the station's power systems. Council shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against old-fashioned tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed. Station defenses are down to 60%, someone reported. They're trying to adapt their shields. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Too late for that. Launch the boarders. Special Forces teams, wearing powered armor that made them look more like robots than humans, burst from hidden compartments in what appeared to be damaged Earth ships. While the Council focused on the main battle, these teams attached themselves to the station's hull. What do you mean they're cutting through the hull? A Council commander's panicked voice came through an intercepted transmission. Our armor is supposed to be impenetrable. Diamond-edged plasma cutters, Reed muttered to himself. Simple, but effective. The station's internal cameras, hacked by Earth's cyber warfare teams, showed the confusion inside. Council soldiers, used to fighting from a position of technological superiority, found themselves facing humans who had trained specifically to counter their every tactic. Multiple Council ships are powering down weapons, the tactical officer announced. They're surrendering, sir. On the main screen, Reed watched as Council ships began broadcasting surrender signals. The station itself, its command systems in chaos from the boarding teams, was going dark section by section. Message from the station commander, communications reported. The alien commander appeared on screen, his crystalline form dulled with stress. How? He asked simply. How did you plan this so perfectly? Reed's voice was cold. We've been planning this since you first ignored us 50 years ago. Every insult, every dismissal, every act of sabotage against our development. We saw it all. We just waited for you to show your true colors. Multiple Council worlds are declaring neutrality, Mills reported from Earth. The Council's grip is breaking. First Ring reports that 3 major member species have already pledged support to our cause. The battle was over in less than 6 hours. Earth's first major strike had taken the Council's strongest military base with minimal casualties. But more importantly, it had shown the galaxy that the Council was not invincible. In his command chair, Reed opened a channel to all Earth forces. Phase 1 is complete. Well done, everyone. But remember, this was the easy part. They'll adapt, they'll change tactics. But so will we. He looked at the captured station, now flying Earth's colors alongside those of their alien allies. For Ambassador Walker, he said quietly. For Walker, the cry went up across the fleet. In the Earth Command Center, President Thompson watched the victory unfold. Send word to all our forces, she ordered. Operation Walker's Justice is proceeding to Phase 2. The Council thought they could break us with one cruel act. Instead, they started a revolution. Mills nodded grimly. And this is just the beginning. The Great Council chamber on Harmony Station looked very different now. Scorch marks from the battle mirrored its once perfect walls. Half the floating platforms were empty. Their occupants had either fled or switched sides. First Ring's platform now hovered next to the human delegation, symbolizing the new alliance. The corrupt must be removed, First Ring announced to the remaining council members. Her scales shimmered with determination as she projected evidence across the chamber. For centuries, they kept us blind, made us believe we were preserving peace when we were enforcing tyranny. President Thompson stood beside her, watching High Speaker Last Stone and his supporters grow increasingly agitated. The evidence was overwhelming. Records of stolen resources, suppressed technologies, and planned conquests. Lies. Last Stone's crystalline form pulsed with rage. These humans deceive you. They planned this from the beginning. Did we plan for you to murder our ambassador? Thompson's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Or did you do that all on your own? In orbit above the station, Admiral Reed watched the proceedings from the Terran dawn while monitoring the tactical display. Council warships loyal to Last Stone were gathering at the edge of the system, preparing for one final push. They're desperate. Mills commented via quantum link from Earth. Our latest intelligence suggests Last Stone's faction is losing support by the hour. More council worlds are joining our coalition. Reed nodded, which makes them more dangerous. Desperate leaders make desperate choices. As if proving his point, Last Stone suddenly rose from his platform. Enough. If you choose humanity over the council, then you choose destruction. He pressed something on his control panel. Alarms blared throughout the station. First Ring's scales turned pale. He's activated the emergency protocols. The station's core is set to overload. Thompson finished, already moving. Clear the chamber. All ships pull back from the station. But Last Stone's plan had one flaw. He was using systems that humans had already learned to counter. In the station's core, engineering teams led by Earth's best technicians were already neutralizing the threat. Core stabilized, came the report. But Last Stone and his inner circle have escaped through their private transit system. Above the station, the battle began. Council ships loyal to Last Stone charged forward, weapons blazing. They fought with the desperation of those who knew their time was ending. All ships, defensive formation Delta, Reed commanded. Remember your training. They're fighting to destroy. We're fighting to liberate. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. Earth ships, now joined by vessels from reformed council worlds, moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Their combined tactics proved devastating against the rigid, traditional formation of Last Stone's forces. Their flagship is targeted. Reed's tactical officer reported. Last Stone is aboard. Reed's finger hovered over the firing command, then stopped. No, he said. We're not like them. All ships, disable their engines only. Let's show the galaxy the difference between justice and revenge. The battle ended not with destruction, but with surrender. Last Stone's forces, seeing their leader's flagship crippled and drifting, laid down their arms. The once mighty council faction had finally fallen. In the damaged council chamber, President Thompson stood with First Ring and representatives from 24 allied worlds. Together, they watched the surrender unfold. It's over, First Ring said softly. The old council is finished. Thompson shook her head. Not over, just beginning. Now comes the hard part, building something better. She looked around the chamber, seeing determination in every face, human and alien alike. The next few days would be crucial. They had to establish a new order, one based on true cooperation and mutual respect. Walker would be proud, Mills said from Earth. His sacrifice showed us the truth and gave us the chance to make real change. As if in response, a piece of the damaged chamber wall crumbled, letting in a shaft of starlight. It fell across the spot where Walker had made his final stand, like a spotlight on history's stage. The galaxy was changing. The old order was falling, And humanity, once dismissed as primitive, had proven itself to be exactly what the Council had feared, a force for revolutionary change. 1 month after the final battle, the rebuilt Council chamber hummed with activity. But this time, there were no floating platforms separating the species. Instead, a single round table dominated the room, with all representatives seated as equals. High Speaker Last Stone stood in the center, his once bright crystalline form now dulled and cracked. The trial had lasted 3 days, with evidence stretching back centuries. Now it was time for judgment. President Thompson rose from her seat. The combined courts of Earth and the former council have reached their decision. The crimes committed by you and your conspirators against developing worlds, against Earth, and against Ambassador Walker demand the highest penalty. Last Stone's form flickered with defiance. You claim to be better than us, yet you'll execute me just the same. No, Thompson said firmly, because that's the difference between your council and our alliance. You will live, Last Stone. You will live to see everything you built transform into something better. Your punishment is to watch as we fix what you broke. First Ring, now bearing the title of Alliance Coordinator, activated the chamber's display systems. Images appeared showing freed worlds rebuilding, sharing technology that had been kept from them for generations. The Galactic Alliance's first act, First Ring announced, her scales shimmering with pride, is to establish the Walker Initiative. All developing worlds will receive the support and protection they need to join our community as equals. Admiral Reed, standing with Mills at the back of the chamber, nodded in approval. The Earth fleet, now joined by ships from 24 allied species, was being reorganized into a joint peacekeeping force. Their first mission would be protecting developing worlds from any who might exploit them. Additionally, Thompson continued, we announced the creation of the Walker Memorial on Earth. It will serve as both our Alliance headquarters and as a reminder of the price of freedom. The holographic display showed a magnificent structure rising from the plains of Geneva. Its design incorporated architectural elements from all member species, but at its heart stood a simple eternal flame, burning just as Walker had burned, but now as a symbol of hope rather than terror. The old council is dissolved, First Ring declared. The Galactic Alliance is born. Let all species, whether they walk on legs, float on air, or exist as pure energy, find welcome here. Let all voices be heard. Let all wisdom be shared. In the chamber's public gallery, representatives from dozens of developing worlds watched with hope. Species that the old council had dismissed as primitive now sat ready to add their unique perspectives to the galaxy's future. Mills stepped forward, carrying a small box. Inside was Walker's diplomatic pin, recovered from the chamber after his execution. According to Earth tradition, he said, we lay our foundations with something meaningful. This pin, worn by the man who showed us the truth at the cost of his life, will be sealed into the cornerstone of our new headquarters. As the pin was placed in its final resting place, President Thompson addressed the gathered species one last time. James Walker died showing us that the galaxy needed to change, but his death did more than expose corruption. It proved that humanity would not bow to tyranny. It proved that we would fight not just for ourselves, but for all who seek freedom. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or sensing organs of each species present. The galaxy asked to see humanity's true nature. In our response to Walker's murder, they saw our strength. Now, in building this alliance, they see our wisdom. And in the years to come, they will see our commitment to ensuring such sacrifices never happen again. The new alliance charter was signed that day by over 30 species, with more joining each week. Last Stone watched from his cell as his empire of fear transformed into a coalition of hope. In orbit above Earth, the Terran Dawn prepared to lead the first Alliance peacekeeping mission. Admiral Reed stood at the viewport, watching the Walker Memorial's construction below. Ready to head out, sir? His first officer asked. Reed nodded, touching the memorial pin on his uniform, identical to the one now sealed in the Alliance's foundation. Walker showed us the path. Now we walk it together, into whatever the galaxy holds next. The ship's engines hummed to life, carrying humanity's hope for the future to the stars. Behind them, the eternal flame burned bright, a reminder that sometimes the greatest changes start with a single act of courage.